Hello, I'm Alexandra and welcome back to my channel. Today I thought I would just do a quick chatty video where I talk about how I read so fast. Every time I mention I just finished 3 books this weekend, or like I read over 200 books last year, people are like, how do you read so fast and do you really read everything? I do read everything I read. Like if I put a book as read, it's because I finished it, or I put it down like at least halfway through the book. There are many reasons why I can read over 200 books a year, and I wrote some of them there. They are just tips, I read a lot, that's a fact. I don't think you're not a reader if you don't read as much as I do. Like, I know I read a lot. If you're someone who likes to just read one book and spend like a little bit of time on it and just enjoy, that's completely fine. It doesn't work for me. I need to be reading. That's my joy in life. That's the thing I enjoy the most. So I read all the time, and I read many different things, and that's how I can finish that many books. We'll start by saying that if you want to read a lot, you need to read multiple books at one time, because the thing is, if you're reading a book you're not really enjoying, or it's harder, the topic is harder, you might have some trouble like sitting down and read for more than 15 minutes at a time. So you need to be reading many books. So if you feel like reading this book, you read it. If you feel like reading a nonfiction, you read one, and you just flip-flop between them. It doesn't have to flip-flop like in the same day. It can be you spend a week reading a book, and then the next week you're still not done, but you want to read something else, you read it. The only important thing I would like to add is that you need to finish the book at one point, because if you don't finish the book, you're gonna get a pile, and once you get back to a book you started, you'll have to reread it again, because like you just forgot everything. So read multiple books at the same time, but finish them. Also, by reading multiple books, you need to be reading more than just physical books. I love physical books, but sometimes I don't want to read a physical book, so I'll go with audiobooks. I know it's not for everyone, but for me it works really well. Also, I speak fast and I listen to my audiobook super fast. Usually it's twice the speed, so I go through them really fast. I also like to read ebooks. Sometimes it's nice to just, like, you can read on your phone, you can read on the tablet, you can read on a computer. For me, what works is usually my Kindle. That's where I read my ebooks, but also when I get ebooks from the library, I read them on my iPad because I can't put them on my Kindle. So, but usually it's always my Kindle. I'm not a big fan of ebooks. I prefer audiobooks, because with audiobooks you can do more than just sit down and read. With audiobooks you can, I'll explain later, but you can listen to your audiobooks all the time. So that's a good way to be reading. Also, you should, well, not you should, but I think people you should read multiple different kinds of books at the same time. So basically, you can read a nonfiction, a fantasy, romance, thrillers. You just go with many different types of book at the same time. I feel like it's the best way. So right now I am reading a historical romance, and I am also reading fantasy. My audiobook was also fantasy because that's what was available at the library, but now I will start, I think it's a thriller, so I'm reading a thriller, a historical romance, and fantasy at the same time. They all for different purposes. So basically my audiobook is when I'm at work. My historical romance is when I'm in the bus because it's a paperback, so easier to bring. And my fantasy is a really thick book, so I read it at home, usually when I go to bed. so I flip-flop between all of them. They're on different types, different support, everything. So that's another tip I have. Then don't be afraid to put books down. For me, it doesn't really matter, because I'm not gonna get into a reading slump if I finish a book that I'm not enjoying, because I feel like I'll be able to say, oh, I read it and this is the reason why I didn't enjoy it. Also, I like to know the ending of books, but recently I've been putting down books more than I used to. I feel like at some point there are better books that you can read and books that work for you, so don't be afraid to put books down. Again, this is where I'm saying don't do what I do, but do what I say. But I think I have put down like 4 or 5 books so far this year, and this has to be my most books I have put down in a year. They just, sometimes they're too long, or they're boring, or something in the book made you like being disgusted by the book. It happened to me recently. I was reading I'm forgetting the name. Anyway, I'll put it here, and like it was the beginning, and things that happened by then, I was like, this is not for me, so I put it down. I don't regret it. I wasn't gonna enjoy that book, and it's fine. Then I think this is the most useful thing I'm gonna say, but find a time to read. You can read in many different times that you haven't really thought about it. So for me, I read in the commute to work. I take the subway and the bus, so I'll be reading in the subway and in the bus to go to work and come back. Sometimes also if I go somewhere and I have to take the bus, I'll also be reading. I find this an amazing time to make some progress into your books. It's nice because for me it's like 40 minutes commute, so I can read for 40 minutes, so that's an hour and 20 minutes each day just to read instead of scrolling on my phone. So that's really nice. Also, if you're someone who commute by car, you can listen to an audiobook instead of the radio. That way you can get some reading done too. I also read before bed, because everybody's saying don't use your phone before going to bed. So if you read, that's not using your phone, and it's also very nice for me. Like, my brain doesn't want to shut up when I go to bed, so if I read before bed, my brain is gonna relax and I can fall asleep. Also, if you have a job that's like easy, that doesn't take too much on your brain, you can listen to audiobooks at work. That's what I do. Instead of listening to music. Of course, I'm not gonna put an audiobook that needs me to be really focused on what they're saying, but usually romance works really nice. Everything that's like fiction, contemporary fiction, usually it works too. I just finished a fantasy that was a little bit harder, but my work doesn't require me to really think about things, so I can listen to it. But if I'm really busy at work, I won't be listening to my audiobook. But if it's calm, I'll listen to it, and I usually can finish a book that's like 10 hours long in a day. So that's really nice for me, but that's what works for me. It doesn't necessarily work for everyone, but it works for me. Also, when you're doing chores at home, listen to an audiobook. So like, put your headphones on, vacuum, clean the floor, do the laundry, everything. You can listen to your audiobook. It makes doing these things more fun. And yeah, I do that also. Also, when I cook, I do that because I don't like cooking. So I listen to my audiobook and it's great. And also, a healthy thing to do is take a walk and listen to your audiobook if you can. That way you get some steps in, you'll feel better, you listen to your audiobook, so it's really nice. And the last thing I'm gonna say is have a routine when it comes to reading. Like, I read in the commute to work, so that's my morning. And when I get home, I usually, when I go to bed, I'll read, and also if I take a bath, I'll read. These are my 3 times where I'm reading. If I have more time during the day, I'll be reading more, but these 3 times it's like at least 2 hours a day where I reading, and it's nice. So I think that's it. Honestly, there are no magic solution to reading more. You have to find the time, allow you to enjoy reading, to put down books you don't like, not read books you're not gonna enjoy. I do that, but that's how it is. But if you're a slower reader and you don't read tons of books, just go for what you enjoy. That was my cat. And yeah, reading is supposed to be fun, so enjoy reading, and I'll see you soon in another video. Bye bye.